You've dealt with clients across all different areas, long career. Rarely do we find someone that got into it that early. Um, I could ask you about anything, any problem, but what I really care about is divorce. What do you find among your clients in regards to divorce? What do you think of when you hear the word divorce? What are you going to treat?
That depends why they're there. I am a big believer that divorce should be the last resort, but at times that it could be the first resort. It depends what's going on, especially if there's abuse. If there's abuse going on, then more times than not, it might be better for the couple to separate. There really is no excuse for abuse.
Once there's a decision from one of the spouses to divorce, how does that change that up for the other spouse? What would your advice be for the other spouse if they want to save the marriage?
On one hand, if they're coming to therapy, one might, quote unquote, assume that they both want to stay in the marriage. But there are oftentimes very different reasons. One spouse might want to stay in the marriage because of the so-called financial security, or because it's the best thing for the kids, or because they really love the other spouse. So when they first come in, what I would like to find out is how they define their relationship. What's it based on? What are some of the barriers to a, again using quote, better relationship? And from those points, build up their relationship or help them decide which direction they want to go. I will never tell a couple that they should divorce, and I will never tell a couple that they should not divorce. When it comes to abuse, the main concern is safety. Safety first.
I find that a lot of professions related to the decision, whether it's divorce or marriage, we don't give any guidance. It's really up to the parties to decide. We may help them out and help facilitate. One thing that does bother me is when I see people that go from marriage counseling or couples therapy, and then they end up in court with a bitter argument. You know, as a mediator, it's like, if you were going to be able to work this out, why couldn't you work it out? Like, go from couples therapy to mediation, but it shouldn't get to a point where you end up in a bitter argument in court. What are your thoughts about that?
Sometimes people are not as upfront as maybe they should be or they can be, and they hold back on what their feelings are. Part of the therapeutic process, besides the concrete issues, is to explore, what are you really feeling? What is it about your spouse that is bothering you? What is it about you that's bothering you? What about the interactions? What are the stressors that are going on in your life? And are those stressors something that you can sit down together, either through therapy or alone, and try to work out or manage? Maybe not resolve, but to manage. My overall philosophy is most of therapy is done in between sessions anyway. So what happens in therapy is hopefully taken out. Those tools are given to take out, sit down together, if possible, in a safe environment, and try to manage, if not resolve, those issues. Not every issue can be resolved, but the thought process is that they can be managed. Some better, some not as good. And that sometimes will tip the direction of where the relationship is going to go, which could be a reason that they end up in court. So in a therapeutic session is, well, I didn't know you felt this way, or, I did know you felt this way, but I didn't realize it was so intense. Or I didn't realize that you had all these other things going on in your life. I wish you had told me. And by exploring their feelings, putting it out there on the table, you look at them piece by piece. And if that doesn't work, then sometimes they end up in court.
I find that the arguments that come out of divorce are like secondary to the marriage. Meaning you could have a big argument about the marriage, and the breakdown of the marriage could have been a whole story. But child support, division of assets are really secondary, which ends up something that you have to deal with. Is there like through therapy, like people dealing with other people in a respectful manner, that they would be able to sit together and figure this out rather than battle it out?
What you're describing, I think, are the symptoms of the relationship. And part of the therapeutic process is to find out what are triggered, what symptoms are triggered, and how to either manage or hopefully eliminate what those triggers are in order to have a better understanding of the whole picture of the relationship.